The cloud computing landscape is constantly evolving. With the new technologies and tools emerging in the market, one such innovation is coming which has caught the attention of the developers and IT professionals equally. And that invention is Azure Kubernetes Virtual Nodes. This powerful technology promises to revolutionize the way we think about the auto scaling of the applications today. So in this particular vlog, we are going to explore what is Azure Kubernetes Virtual Nodes and how it works, why you should be using this potential, its tremendous potential to transform your cloud computing capabilities. So let's get started. Hello friends, welcome to my channel and explore the world of Microsoft Azure. My name is Rajneesh Kaushik and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, consultant and an enterprise architect. For more latest videos and blogs, you can always log into my website rajneeshkaushik.com and subscribe to my blog. Please do not forget to subscribe my channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss the latest videos. Do like, share and comment. Harnessing the potential of Azure Kubernetes Virtual Nodes. Here is an agenda. First, we are going to understand the virtual nodes in Azure Kubernetes, how virtual node works and why it is a best solution for your containerized workloads. Then we will understand the advantages of virtual nodes, and then finally we will wrap up with a live demo. So what is virtual nodes in AKS? As you know that Azure Kubernetes services works on a cluster, right? And sometimes you require a capability to, instead of running this in a VM, because we are behind the scene, this works on a VM, right? When you spin up a AKS cluster, actually it creates a VM, okay, which is called nodes, and those nodes are actually working behind the scene to spin up your pods. So if you want, instead of using a virtual machines, you want to spin up a serverless compute platform where you want to use that serverless platform to run your Kubernetes workload, then this is only possible with a concept called kubelet in Azure Kubernetes services. And actually it's not a AKS concept, it is a Kubernetes concept which allows your workload to run on a external serverless computing platform like ACI or AWS Fargate. Okay, so why do we require this virtual kubelet to run your infrastructure outside the Kubernetes and use a serverless platform? Because you don't want to manage the underlying infrastructure on your own. You want this infrastructure to be managed by the cloud provider, and cloud provider provides this kind of infrastructure, serverless infrastructure like Azure container instances or Google Cloud Run or AWS Fargate, right? So this helps you to just, it creates actually a bridge between your Kubernetes AKS and the cloud provider. And then virtual node, what it does is, a virtual kubelet, what it does is it actually schedules your pods on this serverless infrastructure, so that instead of these pods running in your infrastructure, it can directly run into the cloud provider serverless infrastructure. So eventually, what does it mean when you run this externally? Which means that you can easily scale your Kubernetes infrastructure, right, by adding external capacity from the cloud providers. Okay, and this can be very useful if you have a bursty traffic. That means your traffic is suddenly very high traffic and you want to scale this workload and temporarily increase the demand with the serverless infrastructure. And as and when your traffic is less and you want to scale it down, it can help you to scale it down because it works serverless. You might be thinking, why do we require virtual nodes when I can run my workloads in virtual machines or bare metal servers, or I can use serverless computing, right? Or I can use functions like there are multiple offerings like functions or a container as a service platform. So there are definitely advantages of using virtual nodes. So let's take and understand example one by one. Virtual machines, it you can use obviously virtual machine, right? But virtual machine you need to still manage these machines on your own, right? And provision these machines as and when required. While in case of virtual nodes, you don't have to do it. Similarly, for bare metal machines, bare metal servers, right? You have the same benefits, but you don't have to, manage it on your own. It is already managed by the cloud provider. Serverless computing, there are some cloud providers which provide serverless computing capabilities like AWS Lambda or Azure Functions. So the why it is important, because the serverless computing provides you, for not, it's actually does not support the long running processes. If your application is running for a long time, these serverless computing platforms are not a good candidate for that. So that is why virtual node is most suitable for this kind of scenario. Similarly, if you have some functions as a service capabilities in the cloud, like Azure function is one example, you can obviously use that. But again, this kind of Azure functions or capability, similar kind of capabilities are more suited for event driven architecture, where some event happens and in the response to that event you want to trigger some activity. Okay, but they are not suitable for the long running processes. And last but not least, container as a service. There are container as a service platform like Docker Swarm or Kubernetes, right? It provides you similar benefits, right? But it actually provides you more benefits than this container as a service platform, because it provides you more greater capability for customizing the runtime environment which is running inside the virtual nodes. Okay, so what are the advantages of virtual nodes? There are plenty of advantages of using virtual nodes. First of all, it is a cost-effective solution because it allows your cluster managers to run workloads on a serverless infrastructure. And as you know, the serverless infrastructure costing is different than the dedicated infrastructure, because it is, the costing only incurs for the time when you are using it. And another advantage is that you don't have to manage it, you don't have to provision the VMs, and so that is why it is, reducing your infrastructure cost. Scalability is another example. You can scale up or scale down based on the demand, right? And this enables you to support growing number of workloads without the need of manual intervention for adding the capacity. And then flexibility, virtual node provides inherent flexibility for running the containerized workload, because it provides you customized runtime environment without you have to, configure it. It automatically provides that environment and also supports a long running processes. It also helps you to reduce the complexity because it simplifies the management. It provides you scaling up and scaling down capabilities so that you can focus on the application development instead of focusing on the infrastructure management. It provides very improved performance because serverless computing has a faster startup time, and that is why it is a lower overhead than the virtual machines, and that is how it allows you to start and run your applications more quickly and very efficiently and easily. It also has improved resource utilization because virtual nodes can maximize your utilization by scheduling this workload based on the available capacity, right? So if you have a less capacity available, it can directly schedule it on the serverless platform. So that is how you can reduce the risk of underutilized resources or over provisioning the resources beforehand. So you don't have to over provision it beforehand and then keep it running. Okay, so now let's run a demo and see how it works actually. Okay, so in this case we are going to create a Kubernetes cluster and then enable the virtual nodes in it. So let's go to Kubernetes services, create Kubernetes cluster. So I'm going to create a virtual node resource group. I'm going to use the cluster name as node demo, and then AKS pricing is going to be standard. You can use free as well, and then version you can use based on your whatever you require. And then here node count could be 2. Here we are going to use this agent pool, local account with RBAC, and here we are going to use Azure network policy. Okay, so first of all, when we create this, you need to enable the virtual nodes. Okay, this is very important. If you don't enable the virtual node, it will not work. So then now we are on the next step, and as you see, after we enable it, it provides you network policy. So select the Azure as a network policy. Container registry is none, but you can use any container registry if you want. And next, if you want to add tags, you can do, and then create it. So now your cluster is getting created. So first it's going to validate it. Validation is done, and let's create this cluster now. So now you can see that deployment is successfully created, and the resource is still getting created. It's created now, and it is up and running. So now let's jump to the Visual Studio Code, and here if you see, I have already logged into the environment, and I am going to now get the credential of the cluster. So credentials are overwritten. Yes. Now we will see that how many nodes are there. Yes, this is a 2-node cluster, and you can see that virtual node ACI Linux. That means this also creates a virtual node on the Azure container instance. You can also check it with the wide option. It provides you this virtual node ACI Linux, right? Okay. So now we will say how many pods are there currently. You can see that these are the pods which is visible, and here it says this connector for the Linux ACI connector is there, right? And if you want to check the logs of this ACI, like if there are application running in the container instance and you want to check the logs, you can very well use this logs command, and it will give you the logs. Okay, so this is a log coming from that. Now what we will do, we are going to deploy a virtual node by using a virtual node deployment file. Okay, so let me come out of this, and let me first show you what is this deployment does. So this deployment actually creates a deployment for app1 nginx, which is a app1 nginx image. Okay, this image is coming from the Docker Hub nginx latest image, latest tag image, and the container name is app1 nginx. And if you know, this is a basic standard deployment, right? And this is an nginx image. But if you see it clearly here, node selector, what does it do? If you want to use a virtual node, you need to specify the node selector, and in this case node selector is virtual kubelet, and that virtual kubelet is actually using the Azure container instance here. So this particular thing actually tells virtual kubelet to use the external serverless infrastructure, and in this case it is Azure ACI. Okay, so now we will deploy this. So let's get started with this deployment with the kubectl command. So you can see that deployment is successfully created. Now if you again get the pods running into this, you can see that this pod is still pending. So let's wait for it to complete. Now you can see that this nginx is already running now. Before that it was pending, but now it is running. Now you see that we have checked that deployment is successful, and we can also see that these IP addresses are there. So because these are the private IP addresses, right? So in order to test what is there in this private IP address, what we are going to do, we are going to we are going to run a image. Okay, and from that we are going to log in into that image and then install the curl, and from that image we are going to access this application. So if you see this IP address, what is this IP address? 10.239.0.4 and 0.5. so we can use any of these. So first we are going to run the kubectl command. Okay, so let me first exit it, and then I am going to run this by running a container. This is just to log into a sample container, and from that sample container we are going to install the curl command. Why we need a curl command? Because with this curl command we can browse the URL exposed by the nginx. So now we are able to do it. Now we are going to curl it. Okay, and if you curl it, you can see that nginx container is already installed, and it is giving you this web page as an answer. And this web page is coming from the nginx, which is actually deployed inside the Azure container instance instead of using AKS, right? So now you can, if you want, you can delete it, delete this container and other container. So this is the demo which shows you end-to-end demo about how to create a cluster, how to deploy application in the virtual Azure container instance as a virtual node, and then we actually deployed another image which is a sample image. Why we deploy this image is because we want to check this this private IP address by accessing from this image. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.